Hey, how's it going? I got this video. It's called Al Sharpton Manipulates Media in Trayvon Tragedy. And I thought this was a good video because it shows uh, his, where Al Sharpton came from. I mean, his real background. And the fact that really Al Sharpton is a race baiter, and that's where he came from. That's where his power comes. That's how he got known. If it wasn't for his race baiting ways, he wouldn't even. No one would know who he is. So let's take a little look at this video and see what is said.
The fact is, the media wouldn't have been there if we hadn't come in. They would have been one-day stories. There have been many incidents that happened that did not become nationally or internationally known.
So he's talking about another case that was on earlier, and he's saying that if it wasn't for them marching and causing a big stink, that it would have never come to light, like this case that they're about ready to talk about.
The difference was no one did go in and march and protest and dramatize and make it known. Michael Griffith and Yusuf Hawkins have been the only people that died. But the question is, how come no one knows about the other deaths? Because an activist didn't come in and sort of galvanize the public and sort of make the media pay attention. So don't blame me for being effective, because the job of an activist is to put light in a dark situation.
At least he admits that he's an activist and he's not really somebody who's spreading the truth. He's just an activist. He's trying to get his opinions out there.
Actually sets down and plans how to use the press. He will think of situations, and we would listen for situations, and sort of like an ambulance chaser.
This is a guy that was working with Al Sharpton in those days, and he started having his own doubts about Al back then. And this is what he's saying about him. He's like an ambulance chaser, and he would manipulate the media to work his magic. So, the case that they're about ready to talk about is a real is a loud case that we hear about still, and they even talk about it. And when they're talking about the Trayvon case, about this girl that supposedly got raped a long time ago, but now, they keep bringing this up as if it actually happened, but we know better.
Out with money and pay his way into situations and actually manipulate the press and to come in there with a juicy story.
For 2 years, Perry McKinnon was an insider, but he broke with Sharpton over the sensational case of Tawana Brawley.
Tawana Brawley, that's the girl's name. She was the one who falsely accused some people of sexual assault, and she's saying she's not a liar. Well, that we found out later on that she was.
I'm not a liar and I'm not crazy.
In 1987, this 16-year-old girl claimed she'd been raped by 6 whites, one a policeman. But there were inconsistencies, and 7 months later, an official investigation concluded the story was a hoax. Sharpton was Tawana Brawley's chief spokesman.
So, that was the biggest thing back then, and I remember it. I remember it really well. 87 wasn't that long ago, and I remember the whole case coming down, and they really put a lot of pressure on these guys because they were white, and they were saying this is a racist thing, and that the guys wouldn't have done it, but because she's black, she's just a product, and they can do whatever they want or something like that. It was ridiculous.
Expressed his doubts in conversations with me based upon facts that we read out together. Facts that was gleaned from the family. Could not have happened.
Mr. McKinnon, let me make my point. Mr. McKinnon, among other things, has split from you and said out loud in an interview televised today on CBS that this is a pack of lies, that you yourself know that you have not got the goods on anybody, and that there are big holes in your allegation that Tawana Brawley has been sexually assaulted.
So this is Donahue. Most of you young guys probably don't know Donahue. He was a big talk show host back then. In fact, he's probably the guy that started the talk shows as we know it today. You know, like Oprah and all those other ones. This guy was the forerunner, and it was amazing that he saw through it, because the media and the news, I mean, if you were to watch CNN, well, if you were to watch ABC, CBS, NBC especially, those were the ones that were really pushing this thing and making it a racial issue.
Say he did disbelieve it in private, but not in public.
Oh, not, oh, of course not. Public. Never in public.
If Tawana Brawley was a white girl, you would make us fool out of trying to help her. But because she's black, she's gonna prove herself to be white. You know it, Phil, and I know it. The fact that you've got 500 black people in this room and every one of us got a different complexion means that white race is a reality in the United States. Right now, many people in the media of the Western world would be glad for me to say I made a mistake, and I would be an instant hero to them. The reason I won't is I'm not going to lie about what I believe in. So I know I could really make friends with a lot of people if I just said that. But I would not be able to live with myself. I believe her, and I believe she got a raw deal, and I believe somewhere down the line.
Well, that's what he's saying now. But even his closest guy there told us that he had his own doubts, and there was plenty of evidence to know that she was lying.
An incident, it happened when Glenda Brawley, who's the mother of Tawana Brawley, was subpoenaed to appear before the grand jury. Reverend Al said she'd never appear before the grand jury, and he held a press conference in Manhattan where he had the subpoena in his hand, and he says, you know what I think about the subpoena from Bob Abrams, who was the Attorney General at the time prosecuting the case? He said, we don't think anything of it. And then he took it and he ripped it for the camera.
As far as your subpoena is concerned, you can take it and you can shove it up in the garbage pail.
He didn't want her to testify. He didn't want them to question her. The facts were available, but he didn't want them to come out. We already knew the facts back then, and we knew that this whole thing was the way that actually this is how he got into power, because before this he was really relatively unknown. This was the thing that catapulted him to the status of activist. And then later other issues, and then this one with the Trayvon case is the latest. But of course now you don't hear much from him anymore.
Well, as does happen in the New York press, another television station was kind of late for the press conference, and they show up and they realize that they're late. And they say, oh, Reverend Al, we're late, we're sorry. Oh, we can't miss this press conference. So Reverend Al was very accommodating. He says, no problem. He set up, the camera crew set up as if there was a press conference. Reverend Al said what he said before in the first one. And then he took a blank piece of paper, and just as he had before, he ripped it up and said, this is what we think about the subpoena.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The public has been had. I mean, he did it good. I mean, they've been had. They've been had. I mean, it's one thing to pick a person's pocket, but when you pick their, heartstring, that's, it's like lovers breaking up, and people, that's what may make it real dangerous for Sharpton, and things he's doing now.
And that is exactly what's happening today. People have been lied to and tricked, and their heartstrings have been ripped out. Everybody can see this picture of this 12-year-old little cherub of a boy who Al told us was doing nothing wrong. He had a little bit of Skittles and a little iced tea, and he was just wandering through the neighborhoods, heading back so he could watch a basketball game. And some racist, white, Hispanic, killed him. Notice how I was light on the word Hispanic, because they want to focus on white. White against black, because that's where their power is. Believe me, if racism died tomorrow, the majority of Democrats in the House of Representatives and in the Senate would lose the job, because racism is the tool that they use to keep their job. As long as people believe that there's racism in the world, there will still be people voting these people in. But when racism is completely killed, that'll be the end of a lot of these liberals, because liberals depend on racism. They depend on keeping people down and keep these people with the impression that they need liberals to protect them and to give them substance. And when a liberal finally breaks free of that and finds out that they can do for their own self and that they don't need the government, they don't need the liberals to give to them, and that they can do it on their own, they become empowered, they become strong, they become conservative. And that's the biggest fear of the Democrats and Obama. They don't want to see this happen, and it's happening. It's happening right now. We're seeing a lot more, especially in the Hispanic community, where they don't really want a handout. They wanted a little help. They wanted a little hand up. But liberals aren't into that. They just want a hand out, and they want it to be continuous, so that you have to vote for them over and over and over again. Anyhow, that's the only reason I wanted to bring out this video, because Al Sharpton manipulates the media. And Brett Bart, Genius Lives, definitely brought it all out. This was a great video. So thanks a lot for listening, guys, and we'll talk to you later.